How do you not get angry and frustrated when they're saying these things that are just so abhorrent to you?
That's an excellent question. And I think because I know that it can work. Two things. One, I've seen it work in other countries. I've been around people from all over the world. I know people can get along. So I want to show my own fellow people, when I say my own, I mean Americans of any color, any creed, whatever, that it can work. Get to know one another. That's number one. Number two, I know who I am, okay? I'm not going to let somebody tell me that I'm inferior when they don't even know me. All they see is this. And they do it all the time. I've been called every name but my own, which is fine because I know who I am, okay? So don't ever walk into a situation not knowing who you are. Because if you do, they will tell you who you are, and you might walk out believing them. So do your research on who they are and expect, what they're going to say, and be ready for it. Don't get knee-jerk reactions and trigger reactions, because you know who you are. They can't define you just by the fact that you wear glasses and your hair color or something like that. That's ridiculous. So don't let that affect you. Anyone else? Yes.
What was the answer to your original question that started everything? Why do they hate me without knowing who I am?
Okay, there were two answers. There were two answers. The first answer, when I asked them the question initially, when I meet them, well, Mr. Davis, you have to understand something. Black people are prone to crime, and this is evidenced by the fact that there are more blacks in prison than whites, and the data will show that. Well, he's 100% correct. Not that blacks are prone to crime, but that there are more blacks in prison. And the data does support that. But the data does not tell you why. The data just tells you who's there, all right? And so I'm seeing what he's thinking. The data supports his narrative, all right? He doesn't realize there's also an imbalance in the judicial system that sends blacks to prison for a longer time than whites who have committed the same crime, all right? Then he tells me that blacks are born with, and I hear this all the time from different people, I'll just tell you about one right now, that blacks are born with a smaller brain than white people. And the larger the brain, the more capacity for intelligence. The smaller the brain, the lower the IQ. So the guy's called me a criminal, he's called me stupid. I'm sitting there listening to him. To your point, is this offensive? Yes, it's offensive. Am I offended? Absolutely not. Why? Because I know who I am. He doesn't know me. He just walked in the room to be interviewed. He sees this, and he makes those assumptions about me. Now, if my mom and dad said, Daryl, you're kind of prone to crime or something like that, maybe I believe them. They brought me into this world, and they raised me. Or Daryl, you're kind of dumb. I might believe them, but not somebody who just walked into the room and sees the color of my skin. So I know who I am. I'm not going to let him define me. So I just let him roll on. And then after we become friends over time, over applying those values, where he said he had respect for me, you saw that, all right? I asked him again, how could you hate me? You didn't even know me. He goes, Daryl, I had no reason to hate you. And he even sent me a letter apologizing when he got out of the Klan. And I've had that happen time and time again. Is everybody going to leave? No. There'll be people who will go to their grave on all sides being hateful, violent, and racist. But if you have the opportunity to sit down with somebody, you have the opportunity to plant a seed. But you must come back and nurture that seed, pour water on it, okay, help it grow until they can handle it by themselves. Yes, ma'am.
Have you learned?
There's a microphone there.
Have you learned by meeting these people what makes them prone to be this way? Like, is there some kind of something that connects all of that makes them more prone to have an ideology of hate?
Sure. I'll tell you three things. Lack of exposure and education, okay, and also different situations. It could be, my grandfather was in the Klan, my daddy was in the Klan, I'm in the Klan, my kids are going to be in the Klan. It could be a family tradition passed down. It could be you move into a town and it's like a racist stronghold. So if you want to do business in that town, you have to assimilate. You join the local chamber of commerce, the local country club, and the local KKK, all right, something like that. Also, ignorance. Ignorance breeds fear. We fear the thing that we don't understand. If you don't keep that fear in check, that fear will escalate into hatred because we hate the things that frighten us. If you don't keep that hatred in check, it in turn will escalate into destruction. We want to destroy the things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? At the end of the day, they may have been harmless and we were simply ignorant. So we spend a lot of time addressing the destruction. Forget the destruction. What's been destroyed is destroyed. It's not coming back. All right? It's a symptom, a byproduct of the nucleus, of the root cause. Forget the hatred. That's another symptom. Forget the fear, another byproduct symptom. We must address the nucleus. The nucleus is ignorance, which causes all these things. All right? If you cure the ignorance, then there's nothing to fear. With nothing to fear, there's nothing to hate. With nothing to hate, there's nothing to get mad about and destroy. How do we cure the ignorance? With education. All right? You have ignorance and you have stupidity. And now this is my definition. Some people define ignorance and stupidity as being synonymous. I don't. For me, an ignorant person is someone who makes the wrong decision or a bad choice because he or she does not have the proper facts or the proper information to make the correct decision or a good choice. You give that person the facts or the proper information, you have alleviated the ignorance, and they can make the right choice or decision. A stupid person is someone who has the facts and still makes the wrong choice. You know, for example, let's say I have a room, right? And I paint the walls in the room. The walls are all wet. I don't post any signs saying wet paint, stay off the walls. Anybody walking into that room is ignorant. I don't use that derogatorily, ignorance in terms of being unaware, right? They're ignorant to the fact that these walls are wet. And they may come and lean up against the wall, not knowing, and now they got paint on their clothes. I can cure that ignorance by educating. I can put signs up, stay off the walls, wet paint. I can stand in the doorway, tell each person coming into this room, hey folks, gather around the center. I just painted these walls 10 minutes ago. You know, they're wet. So now everybody has the facts. Everybody has the proper information to make the right decision. But yet someone still goes over and leans on the wall, and now he wants to know why is there paint on his clothes. It's because he's stupid. Okay? So fortunately, there is a cure for ignorance. For education and exposure. Unfortunately, there's no cure for stupidity. If you give somebody the education and they choose not to use it, nothing you can do until they decide to employ it. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You strike me as a man of action, which goes without saying, I think, and you're very charismatic. It strikes me that this is the most effective approach when it's one-on-one, you with a white guy or a white gal.
Well, you know, yes, one-on-one is definitely effective because, you know, when you're in groups, nobody, you know, even though they may believe what you're saying, they're not going to admit to it right then and there in front of their colleagues.
Right.
But I've addressed, believe it or not, the guy that I told you about who was murdered. Okay, look him up sometime. His name is Frank Ancona, A-N-C-O-N-A. But you got to put in Frank Ancona KKK because there's another Frank Ancona who's a Honda car dealership guy. Seriously, no relation, you know, but I'm sure he gets all kinds of crank calls. But anyway, you know, I told you I knew Frank very well. And I went to his funeral. And the Klans came from all over the country for this funeral. And a lot of them were shocked that I would show up for that. Not only did I go to the funeral, I participated in the funeral. I played hymns on the piano for the service, okay? And as a result, the guy who took over for Frank invited me to Lexington, Kentucky to speak at a Klan rally and meeting. And I went and I spoke there. And then he invited me to South Dakota to speak at one, and I did. And then as a result, I didn't, you know, the seed was planted. Nothing happened, you know, right then and there. But within a few weeks, some of them started emailing me and asked me not to share the email, etc. And then some of them quit and mailed me their robes and hoods to my P.O. box, yeah. So yes, you know, it can have group effect, but it may take a little bit longer. It's not going to happen right there in front of everybody else.
So in terms of you getting heard, you can only do so many of these meetings, and I'm sure you do a ton of them. You're very good at it. Do you have like disciples or a group of people that are sending the message?
That's why I'm here. I'm trying to recruit.
All right.
I'm trying to recruit. Okay, yes, okay. Now, I'm not advocating that after this thing is over, you all run out to a Nazi rally or a Klan rally, okay? But listen, but here's what you do, seriously. I call it walking across the cafeteria. I've noticed you can do this virtually or you can do it in person. In a lot of big cities or, like Dallas, Houston, places like that, Fort Worth, whatever, you have schools or companies where there's a diverse student population or employee population. And they work together on the same project. Some of them work together on the same project. They might even share the same cubicle. But what happens at 12 noon? Everybody goes downstairs to the cafeteria for lunch. Blacks sit with blacks, Hispanics sit with Hispanics, this group sits with this group. Does that mean that they are separatists, that they're racist? No, not necessarily. People tend to feel more comfortable around familiarity, Now, I advocate that you get up from your comfort group at lunch, once or twice a week, walk across the cafeteria and sit at somebody else's table. Now, if they say, hey, whoa, you don't belong here, go back to your table, go back where you belong. Yes, there's a problem there and it has to be addressed. But chances are they're not going to do that. When you do that, you walk across that cafeteria, I guarantee you have something to teach them, they have something to teach you, and you can learn from them, and in the process, you will make a new friend. This is how we foster this kind of thing, all right? You can do it virtually. We have internet, have these chat rooms, text one of your colleagues, that's in another state, and set up a Zoom meeting, just get to know one another. These things happen. This is organically like this. That's how we do that.